See?
Can't hear you.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Much better.
Who's talking to me? I want to be able to.
Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you. Welcome. We're going to start with report from closed session. There was a motion from Joe Nava and a second from Gary Knapstead. The board approved the settlement agreement on OAH case number 202-1110364 with a vote of 5-2. There was also a motion by Ron Heberly and a second by Courtney Porter. And the board approved the placement for the 2020-2021 non-public school students, changes for number 60 and number 88 with a vote of 7-0. There was also a motion by Ron Freitas and a second by Ron Heberly. The board approved 7-0 the placement of 2020 to 2021 non-public school student new numbers 10, 82, 107, and 108. And that is all that happened in closed session. I apologize, we're going to backtrack and do Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Knapstead, can you lead us? Sure.
Salute, pledge.
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Gary. I apologize for not starting with the Pledge of Allegiance. That was my error. I would also like to welcome our student reps. How are you?
Doing well, how are you?
We're good. And all board members are present and accounted for. We'd like to start with a moment of silence. We lost a paraeducator at Millswood School. Yasina, I'm going to say her name wrong, and I apologize to the family. Yasina Saldana was a paraeducator at Millswood School. She passed away January 21st. Ms. Saldana had been an employee at Millswood since March of 2014. And according to the principal, Erin Lindsay, Yasina was dedicated to her students, to her school community, and she made Millswood a better place daily. She will be missed by her students and the entire family at Millswood. Can we all bow our heads for a moment of silence? Thank you. Mr. Neely,
Yes, ma'am.
are you ready to give us your spotlight on CSBA
I
Delegate Assembly meeting?
Can we bring up the PowerPoint, please? Okay. There's a lot on the agenda, and this is probably not the most exciting topic, so I'll try to be kind of quick about this. Bring the first slide, please. I want to tell you a little bit about the Delegate Assembly, what we do. I'm not going to read the slide to you, but you can see there's about 280, that varies sometimes depending on school population and seats filled. Through the 21 areas in California, 21 regions is what they're called. And we meet twice a year. We meet in May, and then we meet again in 2 days preceding the annual education conference. That could be the last days in November, first days of December. This year, it was actually the last day of November and the first day of December. You can see the counties, the area that Region 8 covers there. Quite a large region. It's actually broken down into sub-regions. Next page, please. Okay, in Region 8, we've got a total of 14 delegates. One of those is our director, and our director is also a member of the board of directors. It's a much smaller group. There's a total of about 30 people on that board of directors. We serve a 2-year term, and I'm entering my 10th year now as a delegate, and I'll be up for election next year if I choose to stay with it. Larger districts get to actually appoint their delegates. Stockton, because they're a little over 35,000 ADA, they have 2 delegates that are for them, and they get to appoint their own. There is no election outside of their school district. For example, LA School District, I believe they have, I think it's 13 board members, maybe more. And every one of them is on the member delegates. In our area, Region 8, we have 78 school districts, so we represent that with those 14, which a lot of school districts go unrepresented. And they rely on our PACER, and I'll tell you about that in just a moment. Wow, there it is. Steve Reed. Steve Reed is a CSBA PACER. He works for CSBA and is the liaison with all the different delegates and the other school districts as well. Great guy. Steve Reed ran our Measure U. I think she didn't run it. Mr. Freitas actually ran it. But Steve worked closely with him. He helped us put everything together. He did a fantastic job. Right now, Region 8, we meet monthly. It's always a Zoom meeting. When COVID was at its high last March, April, when everything was going on, we were meeting weekly. And then we went to bi-weekly on it. And this is what we discuss. We discuss things that affect state legislation. We discuss CSBA, what's going on there. And we also have the opportunity to talk to other districts, representatives from other districts, school board members, and see what they're doing, what's working for them, and what's not working for them, the problems that they've encountered that we might encounter. So it's a great forum. Next page, please. And here's the mission of Delegate Assembly. You can read that. Highlights of this is we do talk about things that affect our districts and what CSBA can do to help us. Also the county offices of education. Over on that. And we go to the next slide. Now, 10 years ago, Mr. Heberly and I were both members on the Delegate Assembly. We both had the same complaint about it. And it was more of a social network, it seemed like at the time, than anything else. And they spent a lot of time congratulating each other on stuff. And so he and I both got pretty upset about that. And it's evolved. It's changed. And we forced it to change. CSBA has become much more focused. And they're actually driven by what the delegates do now. And the delegates, we forced that on. We made them go to breakout sessions at our meetings, at the assemblies, so that we could get together and talk about problems that we were having that would then come back. That's actually how CSBA got on the lead for the special education problem, funding in special education. At the time, I remember it was about, special education was infringing on the general budget by about $20 million a year. It's now infringing on over $40 million a year. So the state, CSBA has brought forth some proposals. The state worked with some legislators. Looks like we may get some relief on that within the next year or so. So that would be a great thing. Also, the CSBA, you can see that we've gone to more responsibility for the delegates. During this past December meeting, it was passed that if a delegate misses meetings, they will be pulled off of the committee and replaced. And we talked about pressing forward the robust agenda for school finance reform. We talked about we called it a soft landing from the ADA, from the drastic drop in school attendance that everyone is seeing across the state. Almost every district in the state is in declining enrollment, which affects our ADA. Now, we've had a ADA holiday on that the last couple of years, where they're using an ADA from 2018, I think it is. 2018. But that's supposed to end here shortly, and we're going to we stand to lose quite a bit of money. So there are some things that are working on that, such as using a 3-year average instead of just the lowest number. We've also pushed hard on districts, the state helping out on the pension fund. Contribution of the district to pension funds now, I believe, is 17%, isn't it, Mr. Con? 16.9 something percent, yeah, about 17%. Awfully high. But then there's the special education. So those are the things that we talked about in December. There is movement on it, and I've got to tell you, I think CSBA has done an excellent job on it. Last slide here. This is what I want to get to. CSBA is evolving into an organization that really represents our school boards. And our school boards are responsible for public education in this state, and that's a huge responsibility. They're the only ones that stick up for us. We need their support, and we need to support them. So I would urge all of my colleagues, take a moment, look at their website. There's some really good things on there. They've got a lot of online classes that we can take. There's lots of material on this. So CSBA is alive and well, stronger than ever, and moving in the right direction. And I'll take any questions from anybody.
George, I want to thank you for disseminating the information via email to us. I read all those updates that you sent to us. Great.
Thank you for telling me that. I didn't know if anybody was getting the right idea.
Yeah, I can go off.
My pleasure.
I too would like to thank George for his presentation tonight. CSBA is a great resource for board members, and also our PACER, which we share with several other districts, is a great source of information. So that each and every one of you knows that your board has the most current information to make the best decisions for all of our kids and all of our schools. So thank you, George, for your recognition tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Freitas. I also want to thank George for introducing some of the courses and different things through CSBA. When you become a school board member, you come in wide-eyed and really excited, you're going to make all these changes. And there's a lot to learn in a very short period of time. And CSBA does a great job, as does our district, of training us on what we can't do, how to basically arm ourselves with the most current knowledge. And they offer a variety of classes that have many of our board members have taken. And if anything, it gets us up to speed, and we also get to interact with other boards from other areas that are experiencing similar problems to we are. Some are bigger schools, some are smaller schools. And the one thing that we all have in common is it's a challenge. And the challenge is never going to be completed, and each year it'll be a different set of circumstances for us to champion and resolve to the best of our abilities. And so I think that is one of the things that I like about CSBA. And George, you're a wonderful resource for us in relation to CSBA, so thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, one more. Okay, thank you. We're moving on. It's an exciting time, Mr. Young. The Reese students are here.
They are. President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer. It's my pleasure to introduce to you some amazing young women and men from Reese School who partnered up with Radiant Life Church. And it's a great opportunity to spotlight this amazing partnership. So I'm going to invite Julie Vaz to come on up. And she is going to share some information, and she's going to be inviting some students to join her, as well as the pastoral staff at Radiant Life Church. So, with that, here comes the crew.
That's quite a group you got.
I wanted to make sure I had backup, so I brought the kids with me. So.
Got to see these beautiful Roadrunner faces, that's for sure. Okay, we're good. Line up here, you guys. We're going to go right in a row. Oh, thank you. Thank you. So, good evening, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer. Thank you for inviting the Irma B. Reese community here to share with you how our students they've engaged in the ACT project, which is led by two gentlemen. Where are they? There they are. We have got our lead pastor, Robert T., and Pastor Tony from Radiant Life Church. And the challenge that they gave to our students allowed them to help actively transform the Lodi community and to continue to spread the word of kindness and that it matters at all times. So our Reese staff, as you can imagine, is very proud of our students for their efforts and their genuine concern for others. So with that, I would like to bring up the lead pastor, Robert T., and Pastor Tony to talk to you a little bit more about the ACT transformation and how it affected our Reese students.
Thank you, Mrs. Vaz, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer. It's a privilege to be here this evening, and it's a great privilege to stand in the presence of these incredible students who have made a huge impact in our community through their acts of kindness. As a pastor of Radiant Life Church, this is our 6th year partnering with Irma B. Reese Elementary School. Two of my children were students at the school when we first moved to California, and the idea came to empower students to identify real needs in the community, express what it would take to meet those needs, and then describe how they could personally be part of the solution. And the really fun part is that we get to help them to accomplish the very things that they write about in their essays. I often find myself in a position when I talk about our relationship with Irma B. Reese Elementary School where people ask, how does a church like ours partner with a public school? Well, the key is that we find our points of commonality. As a church, our core values are to honor God with everything we do, express compassion toward everyone we meet, strengthen families in every season of life, and build community where everybody is valued. We naturally agree on at least 3 of those 4 points. Where else do you find 75% agreement in this society? It's wonderful. So we focus on how we can come together and really accomplish something great. And it's not just about empowering 1 or 2 students or meeting the needs of 1 or 2 families or even a small demographic within the school, but empowering every single student to be part of the solution in the community. And I have to say, on behalf of the staff and congregation of Radiant Life Church of Lodi, a huge thank you to Mrs. Vaz and the faculty, the parents, and the incredible students of Irma B. Reese Elementary. This is Pastor Tony Marler, who's new to our staff and was a vital part of the effort this year.
And I would just like to, again, express our thanks to Ms. Vaz and just the opportunity to be able to do this. It was an exciting time. This was actually my first year being a part of this, and we kicked off with our Kindness Matters Assembly. And what was so great about this year is we were able, with everything going on, we wanted to make sure everything was done safely. And so we partnered with Ms. Vaz. We were able to do 3 different assemblies, which in turn allowed us to touch more children than we ever had as far as reaching them with what the message, what we were trying to encourage them to do. And so we did that, and then we had part of the assembly, we had music. We engaged with the children through the music. We had an illusion where we had a young lady disappear and came back out. And then at the end, it was really just the overall goal of finding a need in our community, how can that need be met, and how our students can be a part of that, meeting that need in our community. And I'm going to tell you something, this was an amazing effort with these children. They are amazing. And as Pastor and I was reading through all the essays, all the students had really good essays. And but there were some, I mean, they just really were thinking out of the box. And I know some of them are going to really talk about that. But I just want to say thank you again. This was just a coordinated effort between us and Irma B. Reese and the parents, which I want to say thank you to all the parents that were able to bring all the students to Walmart, where they were able to go shopping and then go do what they needed to do with everything. So thank you again.
Absolutely. And as Pastor Tony alluded, one of the things that's really vital is that when we receive those essays that the teachers have graded and Mrs. Vaz has refined down to finalists, we get to help make those happen and present awards, not to the students, but through the students. So over the last 6 years, Radiant Life Church has provided in excess of $20,000 to empower students to make a difference. Now, we conduct the assemblies, we empower the students, but they are the ones who see transformation take place in our community because kindness matters. And so I just want to again express my great appreciation to the wonderful staff and students of Irma B. Reese Elementary School.
Thank you.
My name is Lucy Grover, and I'm a third grader in Mrs. Yeager's class. I give back to our community by providing puzzles to the elderly people in rest homes. My name is Colton Munoz, and I'm a second grader in Mrs. Clayman's class. I helped our community by purchasing all the supplies needed, like gloves and garbage bags, to clean up our community. My name is Sophia Sotelo, and I'm a second grader in Mrs. Clayman's class. I helped our community by giving blankets and slippers to seniors in my neighborhood for Christmas. My name is Noah Kalan, and I am in first grade in Mrs. Muno's class. I helped our community by giving food to the homeless. Good evening, President McFarland, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. My name is Mia Lundgren, and I'm a fourth grader in Miss Williams' class. I gave back to our community by providing toys and gifts to the children at UC Davis Children's Hospital. Good evening, President McFarland, members of board, and Dr. Washer. My name is Carly Stroud, and I'm a fourth grader in Miss Williams' class. I gave back to our community by providing hats, scarves, and blankets to elderly people in rest homes. President McFarland, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. My name is Reese Ouimet, and I am a fifth grader in Mrs. Nichols' class. I took an active role in transforming our community by writing a persuasive essay to provide food and toys to the Lodi adopted child. Good evening, President McFarland, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. My name is Stella Archuleta, and I'm a fifth grader in Mrs. Nichols' class. I took an active role in transforming our community by writing a persuasive essay to provide blankets, toys, and food for animals in shelters. Good evening, President McFarland, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. My name is Annabelle Epperson, and I am a sixth grader in Mrs. Martinez's class. I took an active role in transforming our community by writing a persuasive essay to provide toys, treats, blankets, and beds for animals in shelters. Good evening, President McFarland, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. My name is Emma Martesini, and I am a sixth grader in Mr. Nuss's class. I took an active role in transforming our community by writing a persuasive essay to provide items for the military. Good evening, President McFarland, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. My name is Madeline Elliott, and I'm a sixth grader in Mrs. Jones's class. I took an active role in transforming our community by writing a persuasive essay to provide Christmas dinner for citizens who were not able to go out and buy their own food. My name is Mason Lundgren, and I a kindergartner in Mrs. Henneke's class. I helped our community by giving toys to kids at UC Davis Hospital. Good evening, President McFarland, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. My name is Chloe Bechtold and I am a 5th grader in Mrs. Nichols' class. I took an active role in transforming our community by writing a persuasive essay to provide toys for the children at UC Davis Children's Hospital.
Would you show the video so everyone can see what this actually looked like? And so I would just close by saying, this group speaks for themselves. They are an amazing partnership, helping so many. The top 2 essays are over there for each of you to read when you have a moment. They're sitting over there, Mrs. Armstrong. But can we just give this amazing group a round of applause? We're going to do a picture.
And I was going to say, can you keep everybody for a minute, board members, would you?
And before you say anything, we have amazing teachers and parents who showed up to make sure all this happened. So, and some of them are my high school students, parents, teachers as well, so I appreciate you being here. But with that, this just speaks to the partnership that's happening at every level.
So give a round of applause to your teachers that are out there.
Mrs. Betts, could you have all the teachers and parents that are in the audience stand up that brought their students? Because really, you're just as big a part of this as your students. Mr. Freitas?
President McFarland, what a way to start our meeting. My wife, I'm not partial to this simply because my wife is a Reach Road runner. I didn't say was, she always will be a Reach Road runner because that's the type of school this is, and it's great to see that the traditions are carrying on. Radiant Life Church. You never cease to amaze on what you've done. $20,000 over 6 years is no small accomplishment. Not only have you helped our community, but you've taught our children how to help our community and how they have the power to do so many different things. Students, K through 6, every single grade was involved and represented, and the people that you helped other children, you helped animals, you helped seniors, you helped military, you helped those that were in need. What a great broad spectrum, and I can't thank you enough for what you've done for our community, and I know each and every one of you have helped yourselves by helping others. Principal Voss, parents, teachers, you never cease to amaze on what you all can accomplish, and I just got to say, you set a pretty high bar, and I can't wait to see what you have for us for next year. So, great job. Thank you from the board. Thank you from all of us.
Students, I want to tell you, you could be very proud of yourselves, as we are proud of you also. And again, thank you parents, teachers, staff. It's great to be able to partner with other agencies within the community. Radiant Life Church, thank you so much. And I got to just end it with, what a winning combination. Thank you all very much for the things that you have done to help our communities.
Mr. Porter?
Yes, it's amazing what the power of collaboration can do between parents, teachers, administrators, and of course the local groups, community groups, and then with our students. I'm taking away from this is inspiration, that these young people have inspired me maybe to do a better job in my daily activities and so forth, my job as a board member. That's what I get out of all this. So I want to thank the students for all your incredible efforts, and thank everybody else that was involved. And Mrs. Voss, thank you for your leadership in providing this opportunity. Thank you.
Mr. Neal?
Kindness is contagious. Absolutely. More so than COVID. You guys, what you have done doesn't stop with what you have done now. You've impacted a lot of other people. I was, my wife and I just adopted 2 small kittens from the animal shelter here in Lodi. And we go down there and there's a picture of a student up there who donated, I think, $150, rounded up some money. It's great what you're doing for our community. And gentlemen, what you have done to work with our kids, we appreciate it. Julie, my gosh, you have just done a tremendous job, and your staff. Thank you so much for everything. The act of kindness goes here because I feel like I've been given something by you guys coming here and sharing this with us. So thank you so much. Great job.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. One of the things that I noticed that was actually very impressive to me is the good job the students have done with their presentation and reading skills. It's not easy coming up here. We're not all Mr. Neely. It's not easy coming up here and make that kind of a presentation. You did a great job. Teachers, way to go. Thank you for that work too.
Thank you. Mr. Nava?
Yes, I just want to congratulate all your students, Ms. Voss, and your staff and gentlemen. Again, this is quite a great experience to have. I wish I missed out on those kinds of things. It's so kind and nice to have a group of students like you get in there and, like Mr. Neely said, the act of kindness. It's such a great thing to do that. And thank the parents again. You are responsible for all this, and so are the church people that are here. Thank you very much. Bye.
Great, and I'll wrap it up by saying thank you. A small act of kindness is contagious, and we're hoping that it's contagious at the rest of our board meeting with smiles and kindness. Maybe just a little bit. Thank you, and we appreciate it. I can't wait to see what you do next year. And parents, this doesn't happen without you getting your students to school, sending a positive moment with them in the morning, being a positive role model. And teachers, thank you for hanging in there this year and doing what you do best with our students. We appreciate all of you. Thank you, Mr. Young. Thank you, Mrs. Vaz. Students, we're going to give you a minute. parents, if you want to stay for our meeting, we'd love to have you, but we'll pause for a couple of minutes and let those of you that want to depart.
You're there too. You're all right. I'll see you on that side.
Amazing. Super dance and singing is amazing.
Okay, we're going to get back to Dr. Washer and her report as soon as everyone makes their way out. Okay, we're going to continue on with our agenda. I would like to remind the audience that we are...
Hey, Leonard, ask him if he's got a medical condition before you go.
Excuse me, sir, we're in the middle of a meeting. We would like everybody to stay in their masks. We realize the difficulty with the mask, but we are in a district building and that is our mandate, so we are going to stand behind it at this moment. Dr. Washer, would you like to continue on with your report?
Yes, as hard as it is to follow that, I do have a few things to share with you. Quite amazing. I do want to congratulate Middle College High School for their accomplishments in the county academic decathlon. They have earned the status of county champions and first place overall in the competition. So congratulations to Middle College High School. We will invite them to a future board meeting so that you can congratulate them personally and we can meet their team. There were some very impressive individual accomplishments that I know that they would like to share with you, and you will be very proud of these students. It brings to mind my dear friend Jim Franco, who was the superintendent in Tracy Unified, and we had a little bit of a rivalry about this competition, whether it would be Tracy or Lodi, and I remember him coming into County Soups meetings with a trophy on occasion when his schools would win. So hopefully I can borrow that trophy and in memory of him, take that to our next meeting so that I can brag about our district winning first place. I also like to share with you some pictures from Oakwood Elementary School. No, our staff has not aged drastically overnight. They are celebrating the 100th day at Oakwood Elementary School, all dressed up. There are a couple pictures here, very precious pictures of our students and our staff, of helping students have fun, feel connected to school. Thank you for your spirit over at Oakwood Elementary School. I also want to let you know that we had our second annual virtual conference. Our Women Together group put on our second event virtually. We had over 200 folks participate in that. Some national and world-renowned speakers joined us, all focused on helping women in their journey towards leadership, or as they are leaders, becoming leaders, dealing with issues, women in the workplace, dealing with issues of balance of life between work and home, those kinds of things. So I want to thank the San Joaquin County Office of Education for being a part of that and helping us put that on. Also want to announce that this week is National School Counseling Week. Mrs. McFarland, if you wouldn't mind, I have a certificate here, and we have Mr. Dean Blount, if he could come up. I'm going to have Mr. Porter, if you wouldn't mind. presenting a certificate acknowledging the contributions of our counseling staff, thanking our counselors for their hard work and their vital services each and every day, especially during this time that we've been through with the pandemic. So thank you, counselors. Mr. Porter.
Thank you, Dr. Washer. This is a certificate of recognition. The award is presented to the Lodi Unified School District counselors to recognize February 7th through the 11th, 2022 as a National School Counselor Week and to highlight the tremendous impact our school counselors have in helping students achieve school success and plan for a career. Mr. Plout, is that correct? Mr. Plout is here to accept for all our counselors, and here is his certificate for all the counselors.
1, 2, 3.
Thank you very much. I'm proud to accept this on behalf of our school counselors. As the president of LPPA, I myself am a school psychologist, and I now have the pleasure of presenting this to our counselors at our next e-board meeting. And they're going to have to take turns sharing it around to the different subgroups between the high school, middle school, and elementary. But thank you very much for the recognition. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Any comments from the board, or we?
Well, even though Dean's ran away from the podium,
I was just resting. I was tired.
that is a very heavy proclamation, isn't it?
Not so many whereases this time.
Yeah, I wonder why that is. So, but anyway, our schools can operate with our counselors, and not only do our counselors make it function, they make it sing. Please thank each and every one of them from our board. We greatly appreciate all that they do, making sure that all of our students have a great educational experience. So please thank you, Dean.
I will. Thank you.
Mr. Neely?
Thank you, President McFarland. I tell you, I've seen counselors make such an impact on kids. At Reed, I'm sorry, I'm still thinking about Reed's there. Creekside, we had some excellent counselors there, and they would get so involved with the kids, you know, and just, you'd see them out there on the playground just stopping kids and talking to them, and it was a constant job. So please, thank them for us. We appreciate everything they do.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, oh, did you, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Obviously, counseling is extremely important, especially these last 2 ridiculous years that schools have had to live through, and the world and the nation have had to live through. Counseling is definitely something that our kids need. It is a vital service, and please extend my personal thanks and thanks to the board for the work that they do. Thank you.
Okay, it's my turn. Dean, thank you. Please extend our thank you to all the counselors. As Mr. Hebley said, it's been a long couple of years, and I think if we thought you were important 3 years ago, you've been invaluable the last 2 years and will continue to be going forward. Please, again, extend our thank you.
I will.
Congratulations.
Right. I know during the last few years that everything's been challenging, and social emotional learning has been a big priority of this board. I remember bringing our counselors together to present about what we could do to make things better, and I appreciate your words, and they will as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Washer, are we?
Thank you very much. That concludes my report.
Great, thank you. Comments from student representatives? How are we tonight?
I am doing well. How are you?
Great. Who wants to go first?
I will take the lead on this one. Thank you, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer. Tokay Link Crew is currently selling Valentine's Day grants to students who are interested in giving to a special someone on the 14th. Our LPAC testing is off and running. Student government has made over 100 Valentine's Day cards for Rebel Retirement Home in Lodi in hopes of brightening some days on the 14th. Student government has also organized a car wash to be held this Thursday, February 10th in the Tokay bus loop, in which all donations will go to fallen Captain Max Fortuna's family. For our sports, our spring sports are gearing up and they started practicing this week. Our robotics team won their regional competition this past weekend. We are actually hosting a Powder Puff game this year. It'll be on March 4th against McNair. And our boys soccer team took first in TCAL and will be hosting their first playoff game on this Thursday, February 10th.
Great, thank you. Questions from the board, or do we want to?
Great job.
And welcome, Andrea. Am I saying that right? Andrea?
It's actually Andrea.
Andrea. And she is the VP at McNair, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for subbing tonight.
Thank you, Ms. President, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. My name is Andrea Paul, a student representative from Ronald E. McNair High School. I'm currently substituting for Mr. Duterte, who is unfortunately out due to a family emergency. So, last Thursday, we had our annual talent show, which is a bit of a wordplay for Eagles of Talent or Eagles of Talent. It was a fun event for families and friends to come together for cultural dances, singing, and instrumental performances. And unfortunately, we did have two important Eagles pass away, Ms. Thompson and Coach Lebo. Ms. Thompson was a beloved campus supervisor, volleyball coach, and she's also known as the mother of McNair. And our second, which is Coach Lebo, who is the coach of our water polo and swim. Upcoming events we have to get us in the holiday spirit. We have choir doing singing grounds, which is we'll have a romantic song sung by our advanced choir during second period. And we have Powder Puff against Tokay March 3rd. And we didn't know Powder Puff was an annual event for girls to play football and our guys are cheerleading. Student government, we currently wrapped up our SOAR presentation. SOAR is a bit of an acronym standing for Safe, Organized, Accountable, and Respectful. You can say it's a golden rule for McNair to follow. It was just a way to present to our students who currently came back from COVID to understand what McNair is really about, and also to get them more spirited with our Eagle Bills to have in the SOAR store. Our SOAR store sells Spot McNair merch. And we worked on recruiting for next year for presenting to our underclassmen during counselor presentations. And for sports, we currently wrapped up some winter sports such as wrestling, who did really well with individual wins, and senior night for boys basketball, boys soccer, and girls soccer. We currently are recruiting for sports such as badminton, boys golf, softball, track and field, boys volleyball, and stunt. And that's what's happening so far at McNair. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Mr. Freitas?
Okay, how are those new classrooms?
I love them solely because my favorite color is yellow and like the yellow walls and everything like that. But no, they are super nice. There's a great balance of that sunlight coming in with those big old windows. But yeah, no, I love them. It's
Okay, so I'm guessing that nobody wants to go back to the portables?
The portables are gone. There's not really portables to go back to.
Very, very nice. And my understanding is that we have a ribbon cutting scheduled later this year where we'll be able to come on and see you all. So hopefully you can make it to that.
Yeah, definitely.
Now on your, the portables, do you have all the, I mean, not the portables, new classroom. Do you have all your furniture and everything that you need?
I think so.
Mr. Carr?
No, you don't.
I don't.
Not yet.
What am I missing?
You're missing the good stuff.
Like what?
You have the old stuff.
My chair in first period is a little squeaky. I will give you that.
You said
So.
what? Mr. Carr, all right?
I'm sure it's under warranty. I know a good lawyer. We get that.
Mr. Khan, when can we help, hope for the new updated material?
Spring break.
Spring break, okay, there you go, you get a new chair.
Nice.
All right, thank you, very good job.
Thank you, Mr. Porter.
And McNair, well, welcome to our meeting.
Thank you.
We usually ask our student reps to tell us a little bit about themselves, what they like, what they don't like, what their plans are. You're a senior, we would guess, right?
Yes, I am.
So, Andre, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I have been in lead crew for my junior and my senior year. I am currently the treasurer of our new feminist club, which is a new club representing McNair. I am also interested in going to Sac State or San Jose State. I'm still hurting from San Jose State, but I got sent to Sac State.
And what do you plan on studying at San Jose or Sac State?
I'm currently interested in international business.
Oh my goodness. Well, very good luck with that.
Thank you.
And be sure to let us know how that turns out.
I certainly will.
Very good. Well, thank you. Welcome to our meeting.
Great, thank you. Any other board members? Mr. Knudsen?
I would just like to point out that the old stuff is not old, it's just well broken in, so.
Definitely, yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
No
Knudsen.
longer under warranty.
Okay, we're moving on. Thank you both. As you know, we'd love to have you sit as long as you can and participate, but when it's time to go and you have homework, we understand. So we understand.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're going to move on to public comments. I'm going to read my brief little statement, and tonight we have 7, which puts us a little over 20 minutes, and we are going to stick to the 20 minutes. That is my decision, and I will stick to the 20 minutes, and so we're going to try to, if your is a little bit short, you're just going to save a little time for the person who gets the number 7 draw. Beginning with our system, public speaker's timer, public speaker timer. The light will stay solid green for the first 1 to 2 minutes. At 2 minutes, it will start flashing green. At 2.5 minutes, it will turn orange. And at 3 minutes, it will beep and turn red when your time is up. So recap, solid green 1 to 2 minutes, flashing green 1 minute, orange 30 seconds left, red and beeping, it means time is up. A 20-minute time period has been set aside for the public to address the board on items not listed on the agenda. Each public speaker shall limit his or her comments to 3 minutes. The board cannot engage in dialogue about public comments because of the restrictions placed on the board placed by the California Brown Act. So the first person I have up is Susan Heberly, and then next on deck would be Brooke Chambers. And Mrs. Heberly, can you give us your affiliation with the district?
Pardon?
Can you give us your affiliation with the district?
I'm sorry, I was
Your
last
affiliation.
hearing.
Your affiliation with the district?
My affiliation with the district?
We have a little bit of time.
Okay, this doesn't count on my 3 minutes.
It's going to, so you can go.
Okay, so I taught for over 30 years at Tokay High School with Mr. Porter. We were roommates for a long time and shared a lot of equipment. I've been coaching for Science Olympia for over 25 years and Science Bowl for about 15. And my grandson goes to school, and my children had various times at Lodi Unified. And for 17 years, I attended school board meetings to get rid of Concept 6, every meeting. It was awful. Anyway, thank you. Does my time start now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm in purple. Okay. The children in California are under attack. There are powerful organizations and people that want our children to be in environments full of drugs and overridden with criminal activity. These activities even include human trafficking and disgustingly sex trafficking of children. You can look for yourselves to see what groups and people opposed Proposition 20. In addition, one of the attacks on our children is discrimination. While it might be disguised by other names, it is still discrimination. It may seem today to be innocuous, but it is not. No government agents, or representatives of the government should decide what children are important and what children are not. The problem with accepting discrimination is not only that it is wrong and anti-American, but that once it becomes the norm, the parameters might change. The question will be, what criteria will be used to discriminate against our children next time? We can no longer trust the state of California leaders to protect and do what is best for our children. It is incumbent upon every person who cares about the education and well-being of every child to promote equality today and tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Good word. Okay, it's the truth.
And after Brooke, we're going to be with Stephanie Orlando. I'm sorry. Welcome, Brooke. Can you give us your affiliation with the district?
Yes, absolutely. I am a teacher at Borchard Elementary, and I was just offered a position next year at Reese, so that was very exciting. Can we give one more hand to Reese? All Roadrunners. Okay, good evening, Dr. Washer, President McFarland, and members of the board. I'm here today to thank you for being willing to take a stand against medical tyranny and fight for human rights. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm also here to say that I think more needs to be done to protect those individuals who've made a personal medical decision based on discussion with their doctor and their own personal research. It is becoming more apparent that the word misinformation is a cop-out that's used to insult and shame anyone who is a salmon swimming upstream. And I am a salmon swimming upstream. Over the course of the last year, I've become an extremely tired salmon. In my quest for validation, I have wanted to cave so many times, just for convenience, even though I feel strongly about my medical decisions. I encountered some words of wisdom regarding salmon that brought me some peace. Salmon only go upstream to lay their eggs. They go to the same spot every year, and then they go back out to the ocean with all the other salmon. They can't survive a life going upstream. They know they have a job. They do it, and then they go back home. You can't live a life going upstream. It's a waste of energy. So while it's important to believe and live how you want to, we shouldn't waste our energy fighting with everyone. So lay your eggs and go back out to the ocean. And I'm looking forward to us all getting back out to the ocean. We did what we could to fight against this virus, but it is time to move forward and to give our students a sense of normalcy. Their mental health is at stake. So I ask you to stand firm and fight for medical freedom. Continue to push back against our leaders who continuously demonstrate blatant hypocrisy. Stand up for the children in our district and give families the opportunity to choose if they would like their children to wear a mask or to give them a COVID shot. Each day, more states are removing mandates and giving families choice. Please continue to fight for the students and the staff of Lodi Unified and show them that you will not stand for a total loss of unalienable rights. I started my career in the great state of Arizona, where every day we recited the Declaration of Independence. I still have it memorized. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Stephanie, and then next on deck is Ty.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Stephanie Orlando. I have a daughter who attends Lodi High.
Thank you.
I've been remiss in attending board meetings, or frankly, even caring who was elected to our school board. But at this point in time, it is evident that the Lodi Unified School Board does not have the best interest of our children at heart, and parents need to get involved. The psychological damage done to our kids throughout this pandemic is immeasurable and frankly unforgivable. Kids masked at school is inhumane, demoralizing, and not backed by science. Quite the opposite. Lodi Unified hides behind the California Department of Public Health when they themselves published a study stating that children get COVID less frequently with less severity, transmission among students is uncommon, and there is a low risk of transmission in schools. Lodi Unified is not required to follow the California Department of Public Health or CDC guidelines, as evidenced by other schools across the country dropping the mask mandate. COVID case counts are down. There is a minuscule percentage of the population not vaccinated and or without natural immunity, and one-way masking does actually work. The mask mandate needs to shift from the federal government or school districts back to the hands of the parents who actually have their children's best interest at heart. Never again will I send my child to a public school and ignore the board elections. Lodi High students are encouraged to lead by example. The acronym LEAD stands for Learn, Empathize, Achieve, and Decide. And that's exactly what I am asking this board to do today. Decide to unmask our children. Thank you.
Ty, thank you. And next up after Ty will be Mr. Wheeler.
Hi, how are we doing tonight?
Good,
So, we all have tried to reason and work with you on solutions. You ignore us. And what I mean by us is Lodi, United Against Lodi, signs all over Lodi. All of us that come to these board meetings and speak. So I'm serving you with a notice of intent to file a claim against government crime policy declarations, crime, and fidelity. Violations are as follows. A violation of your oath of office. You have sworn an oath to uphold the Constitution of the State of California and the Constitution of the United States of America. You have failed to uphold both constitutions. We live in America. We are free to live our lives without restrictions, abuse, and unlawful mandates from elected government officials. Mandates are not enforceable laws. As elected public servants, you have no jurisdiction or authority to create or enforce mandates. Practicing medicine without a license. You and everyone employed by this district, such as teachers and administrators, have engaged in practice of medicine without a license, which is a violation of state law. You're recommending medical procedures, vaccination with a wholly non-FDA approved product that is licensed under EUA, meaning it's experimental and cannot be advertised at all per federal law. And you have non-doctors recommending it to children with no informed consent. How can you give information, consent, and ingredients in these vaccinations won't even be released to the public until August of 2022? Vote to end the mandates tonight. You have 3 days to respond. This notice is to inform you of your violations of my constitutionally protected rights, any other rights, privileges, or immunities that I may have, and violations of due process of law as required by the U.S. statute and Constitution of the United States of America and the California Constitution. Be it known that you are attempting to make law in the absence of due process of law by issuing ordinances, orders, mandates, and other statements that create the color of law, but are not actual law, and you do not have authority to do so. Therefore, you are participating in a conspiracy that is in violation of your oath of office. As a sworn public servant, you are governed by the contracts established in the federal and California state constitutions and federal codes and statutes, and all that apply to you. And this last little bit of money you guys got, you taking the smiles away from our kids over money. Every single one of you should be ashamed of yourself.
Mr. Wheeler, you're up, and next up after Mr. Wheeler will be Carly Glock.
Board, I'd like to apologize for my conduct last meeting for coming here with no mask. I was unprepared due to the fact that all previous meetings were without one. But I'm wearing my mask in protest today. I actually suffer from a compromised immune system, and breathing my bacteria could potentially cause this being a problem. In conjunction with the accosting of a gentleman that Leonard Kahn did last time we were here was the reasoning for Pete's outbursts, and I would strongly recommend that you drop the restraining order that you have scheduled for. And if you notice, it's 91 days after January 20th. So nonetheless, do your research on those dates. And also, you have blatantly, and I mean blatantly, in your hypocrisy, disregarded any medical issues that we may have wearing this mask. Some of us have serious difficulties in breathing. You have not addressed that or asked at any given time. So, nonetheless,
I'm going to stop you just for a second.
at this point, what am I doing wrong? What
I'm
am I doing
asking you
wrong?
to address the board and not Mr. Khan.
So he's part of the board, right?
No, he is not.
So
He's part of
nonetheless, irrelevant. My bad. I apologize. So,
Thank you.
but at this point in time, what you guys have done, you have not morally given us the due respect as free Americans. You have disregarded our constitutional rights and on a number of issues. Principals tearing off flags off of trucks, leaving other flags up without taking consideration of those children's First Amendment rights, taking phones away. We could go on and on for days. You guys, when it comes up to be reelected or voted on, you're going to be looking at a lot of parents that want your positions. So I'm asking nicely for you to reconsider and drop this restraining order that the board, in fact, has done. And also the receptionist not wearing a mask on 1/30/22. Blatantly, the receptionist sits there all day without a mask. But yet you're filing a restraining order after a man put hands on a gentleman. This is just blatant disregard and just absolutely appalling, and the board, you make me sick. Have a nice evening.
Next up is Carly Glack. And then our last person to speak at the podium will be Lisa Wilkins.
Can I bring these up for you?
You can, yeah, thank you.
Two different pages?
Yeah. And you can also find them at letmethembreathe.net under resources.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today. My name is Carly Glock. I have 2 elementary school age children at Vinewood Elementary and 1 preschool age child. I have quietly observed our state and local leaders since the beginning of this pandemic. I've tried to be respectful of those who are afraid or at risk, but I quickly started to see a forced agenda. And each time I would publicly question this agenda, I was told to follow the science, so I did. Every time I followed the science, my suspicions were proven correct, and all other signs pointed to money. We're told our kids have to wear masks because they are at risk from COVID-19, but the data shows their risk is less than other respiratory viruses like influenza. The CDC estimates 332 children nationwide have died with COVID-19 in 18 months. The CDC concludes that 600 children died from influenza during the 2017-2018 flu season. More deaths despite a widely administered vaccine and lower case rates. The New York Times found children are about 10 times more likely to die in a car accident than from COVID. Have you looked at this data? Have you read these studies? Why are we forcing our children to wear masks, kicking them out of school for weeks, and testing them for dead virus when they have no symptoms to avoid a virus no worse than influenza? Our government has chosen to ignore the psychological and developmental ramifications of masking children in public settings. Brown University offered a study of 7 to 13-year-olds. Children had a 20% impairment rate for recognizing masked faces. The study showed that children process faces by focusing on individual features instead of holistically when someone is masked. If holistic processing is impaired and recognition is impaired, there is a possibility it could impair children's ability to navigate through social interactions with their peers and teachers, and this could lead to issues in forming relationships. Given the importance of faces to social interaction, this is something to pay attention to. Last week, Governor Gavin Newsom, Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti, and San Francisco Mayor London Breed and immunocompromised celebrity Magic Johnson were posing maskless during the NFC Championship game. California has hosted the World Series, and on Sunday, the Super Bowl. In accordance, I made a decision to follow this example. My children will no longer be allowed to wear masks to school upon the return from spring break. I've given you each a letter from attorneys Anastad, Andelin, and Korn on behalf of Let Them Breathe Schools. Schools must exempt students from mask requirements as provided by the CDPH guidance without an honors application process. So my kids won't wear masks and you can't enforce them to because legal ramifications will be taken. I see that you're caught in a catch-22 and I suggest that you
Thank you so much.
that you let Governor Newsom know that the parents are coming and we are not happy.
Thank you. Lisa, where are you? There you are. Welcome. Hello. Okay, we're going to change it up today. My name is Mrs. Wilkins. I am a science teacher at Marana Middle School, but I spent the first part of my career in the private sector, where I worked from everything from Fortune 500 companies to startups with like 20 people. And one of the things I learned about putting together a team, hiring a team, keeping a team together is we always looked at retention versus replacement. And I worked at a time in Silicon Valley where people were always going for the next big thing. And they were job hopping a lot. We were trying to recruit people, like a lot of companies and even school districts today. And we wanted not only to hire new people to grow, but we needed to keep the people we had. It was really important because with them is a knowledge base, with them is an experience base. And unfortunately, I do not believe this district respects that. Everyone knows that there is a huge teacher shortage. And I was recently on a meeting with one of the school board members who, when I talked about that we need to really look at keeping our teachers and look at how many people are on the list who are retiring or resigning. We have a huge gap in special ed. We have a huge gap in language arts, speech pathologists. And the attitude I got was, well, we want people to be happy, so they should have the opportunity to go wherever they want to go. Well, excuse me, I'm sorry. You are letting people with a lot of experience, a lot of passion for their job, go to other districts because those districts are offering more money, they're offering more respect for those teachers, they're offering more autonomy, and they're offering, especially in our special ed situations, caseloads that are manageable and within legal limits. I cannot fathom, when I heard that, I was just blown away. Because I'll tell you, I have had to do things with my teams and with other teachers even, of talking them into staying because I know that we couldn't find replacement. We've had an open position at Marana for a teacher for 2 years. Luckily, we've had a credentialed substitute come in for those last 2 years. We just offered the position during transfer, the person didn't take it. So how long is this going to go on? You need to pay our teachers well. You need to respect them for their ability, and think about retention versus having all these emergency credentials that we have today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to all of our speakers. We're moving on to consent agenda.
Hello, my name was listed back there way at the, I'm on number 7. I don't know how you missed me. I'm Rhonda. Do you see it?
I have green sheets that are filled out by everybody prior to the meeting.
I signed the form back there.
Let's hear the lady.
Oh, no, I don't know. I might have signed the wrong form.
She's got something to say. Let's hear her
It'll
out.
only take me a couple of minutes. I'm sorry. I thought I filled the right form.
I was going to say, would you like to come up, and in the future, there's a green form that has to be filled out in its entirety, but we'd love to have you get your 3 minutes.
I thought I had the right form. I'm sorry.
Pardon?
That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Okay.
Can I take this down?
Whatever makes you feel comfortable where you
Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Rhonda Prismich. I'm just a member of the community, very concerned. All my kids are out of high school and everything, but I just love kids. We all do. We're in this together. These mandated blue masks are made of PTFE, a carcinogen made from synthetic fluoride and various poisons. According to cancer.org, it increases the risk of liver, testicle, pancreas, kidney, breast, tumors, cancer, thyroid diseases, preeclampsia, high cholesterol, high exposure, causes flu-like symptoms and hemorrhaging in the lungs, leading to suffocation and ulcerative colitis. And also, these vaccines are experimental only. They've not been tested. And in the vaccines, what's in the vaccines? Well, there's cells and blood from animals, bovine, albumin, E. coli, aluminum, formaldehyde, MSG, mercury, acetone, yeast, aborted fetal tissues from babies, antibiotics, polymyxin, nemosilin, and anti-silenty, and it's disgusting. And it's beyond disgusting, it's satanic. Luke 17 says from the Word of God, it would be better for you to put a millstone around your neck and throw yourself into the ocean than for you to cause these little ones to suffer. So I would advise you to, the Bible says to repent, which means to turn and change, because God Almighty knows what you're doing and you're allowing this. So that's what I got to say.
Thank you. Okay, we are moving on from, all right, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break, and we will be back with consent agenda A. Move to vote on A4. There we go. A4 passes 7-0. A11, Mr. Conexted, you have that pulled.
Yeah, I'm just gonna beat this drum one more time. We don't know when the next big pandemic or whatever's gonna happen, but we do need a plan in place to avoid things like distance learning. All of watching on TV Land, I don't know if you remember that or not, distance learning, the masks, the whole thing. And one solution to that is YRE, or year-round education. You have 2 tracks on and 1 track off, which gives you lots of space, lots of social distancing. I looked through it, my kids looked through it. There's some advantages and there's certainly some disadvantages. And I'm not saying we should do it right now, but I do think we need to have that plan in place to implement if need be immediately. So with that, I move to pass item A10.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Conexet, second by Mr. Neely. Any additional public comments? Move to vote. Motion passes 7-0. Consent agenda B. Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Conexted motioned, Mr. Neely second. Any board comments? Any public comments? Move to vote. Consent agenda B passes 7-0. Moving on to action items. And there are a few. Any public comments or board comments, excuse me?
President McFarland.
Yes.
Our first action item is the revised trustee boundary maps.
Yes.
And this was a report item at our last meeting.
Yes.
Since our last meeting, it's my understanding, speaking with Dr. Washer, that McNair is actually in Area 7 geographically, but has been assigned to Area 6 because 75% of the students attended, and that was the intention of it. So, for example, I believe Mr. Heverly is represented for Cerna, even though it is not necessarily in his area. So, what we understand going on today is while there is redistricting of the voters, we are not doing any exchanging of the schools. So with that, my concerns were satisfied. So I would move to approve OAI1, the redistricting.
Thank you.
And I guess there's 2 plans, so I will withdraw my motion. And
I was just going to say, Mr. Khan, can you clarify, there are 2 maps, so are we voting on?
Yes, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer, the recommendation is Plan A. That does not move any schools out of anybody's boundary. Plan B was an option at the board report 2 weeks ago, and it's just been left in there to leave the item static.
So when we vote, we are voting for Plan A.
yes, will that be my motion?
I second that
for Plan
A. Second.
Thank you, Mr. Nava.
I appreciate your second, sir.
Any other comments from the board? Any comments from the audience? Welcome, Michelle.
Good evening, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer. I understood that this item was being brought back to us for discussion, that there were some changes in that those that were making the maps were going to be re-presenting because there were mistakes. So I see this is jumping straight to an action item instead of a presentation, which I understood from the last board meeting we would hear about those changes. Is
Mr.
that not the case?
Well, Mr. Khan, would you like to weigh in?
Yes, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer, I think there was some confusion over where one of the items lay, but the plans before you are exactly the same.
Thank you.
Plan A and Plan B are unchanged.
Okay, so is there clarity on which there was differences on the map that we could not see that he was looking into? And I heard Mr. Freitas talk about the school sites being outside and that he got clarification on that. The public's not heard any of that other than what Mr. Freitas said, and I thought it was coming back to us as a report for discussion. So I'm...
Well, I believe, Mr.
thought the
Khan,
maps were going to be adjusted.
I don't believe
from
they're
the-
adjusted, Mr. Khan. Would you
So
like to
it's
make
the
that?
original?
Plan A and Plan B maps are precisely what was presented on January 18th. I think the discussion at the time was where the actual McNair site resided in terms of the trustee boundary. It's always resided in 6, and also the current level of housing in that area also holds 75% of the school children and the voters. However, Area 1 also holds a majority of the property in that area, but there are no houses in Area 1 as yet.
Okay. I was ready for a presentation tonight and thought this was an error coming in, an action item for discussion, so thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions? We'll move to vote. OAI 1 Plan A is what a yes vote means.
Got it back?
7-0 OAI 1 passes. OAI 2, Technology Services Reorganization Proposal from Mr. Khan. Board, any questions? We're going to go.
Please, the board, Mr. President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer, I'd like to present the one and the only Director 3 of Technology Services, Ms. Celia Cole.
Good evening, President McFarland, board members, and Dr. Washer. Before you this evening for consideration is a very straightforward plan. We currently have a vacant typist clerk 2 position that we would like to post as a PC support position. There is a relatively small cost associated with that we have planned to absorb in our current technology budget. Our PC support technicians, as you know, are our frontline support to our staff throughout the district, and we just never have enough of them. With that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Quick comment. Edith, I know that you put this thing together. You did a great job. Thank you very much for everything you put into that. You guys have got a heck of a job down there, a heck of a task. And you do it. Anybody who has dealt with technology for any time knows there's going to be issues, but boy, you guys keep it to a minimum for as big an operation as you run. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
I'll
sir.
support.
President McFarland,
Yes, Mr. Fritz.
I just got to say, if Director Holbert wants it, I'm going to give it, because she is a can-do individual that gets the job done every single time.
Second.
And I would have done this for even if you had double this amount and gone to a whopping $25,000. But that you come in under budget at 12,476, I can make that happen, and I'd move to approve.
Thank you. And the second came from Mr. Noble. I appreciate all the pleasantries, and I'm sure she would take them all night long. So we have a first and a second. Any comments from the board? I'm sorry, from the audience. Okay, we move to vote. Yes, I'm understanding that. They're not going to take your call. And motion OAI 2 passes 7-0. Thank you, we appreciate it.
Congratulations. Thank you.
OAI 3, Dr. Washer.
Thank you, Ms. McFarland, members of the board. This is the resolution that's required as a protection for the board to hold virtual meetings or have board members virtual because of the state of emergency and anything related to COVID. Does not mean that that's what you are doing. It just means that it's there in case, and it would need to be renewed every 30 days per law.
Second.
Thank you for the first and the second. I do have one question. Is this different than when we were doing, at the beginning when we were all in lockdown? Does this apply differently than that time?
It allows for that same type of meeting, but that allowance in the Brown Act has expired, so this is what has taken its place.
So this is more precautionary?
Yes.
Got it, thank you. Any comments from the audience?
Thank you, President McFarland. To clarify through to Dr. Washer, is it possible through this that we could be doing partial virtual where public members could speak during public comments and still a live session to offer those that don't feel comfortable in the room to teleconference in?
I don't believe this implies to that, but Dr. Washer, would you like to take that question?
The purpose of this is to allow for there to be a virtual meeting because there is a need to social distance or because of the impact of COVID-19 in that particular setting. That is the intent. It's for the board meeting.
And I'm going with state of emergency as the key word, and that's,
Correct.
this would not be it, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, call for the vote. We got impatient board members up here. We're gonna have to break at the end down there. Not yet, yeah. And the motion or OAI 3, I believe, passes 6-1. OAI 4, Dr. Washer.
Thank you, Ms. McFarland, members of the board. This is the time for you as a board to vote for delegate assembly member. There is one candidate listed on the ballot, a board member from Manteca Unified. You may also do a write-in candidate if you so choose.
President McFarland.
Yes.
Hi. Do we have a local candidate?
Yes.
I thought I had turned it in, but it's not, this Armstrong's situation. I think I gelled on it, and I have to check my emails. And I was going through them before the meeting. I don't know if I got it in.
Let's put it on.
Let's put him on. Do we have the opportunity?
You may do a write-in vote.
Yes.
You can write in his name and vote. I don't know what happens after that, but that's.
So do we need a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
You may also vote for the candidate who's on there because you can vote for up to 3.
What, 2 votes? Or what?
2 votes would be great.
So the first vote will be,
Can I clarify that?
absolutely.
This wasn't Miss Armstrong's situation. She turned it over to me, and I think I gelled on what I was supposed to do. I did want this position, and I think I fumbled the ball.
So,
I have to check my email.
President McFarland, I'm going to suggest that we vote for Mr. Duncan and write in Mr. Porter.
Second.
Yes. Wow. Okay, Ron, and then we're going with Joe Nava. Okay, so let's vote on voting for Duncan and writing in Mr. Porter. Is that how we're?
Is there a conflict of interest because Mr. Nava coached Mr. Duncan? All right,
No,
I
because
guess it's a
Mr.
vote
Nava
for both.
coached
I'll
everybody.
withdraw any concerns.
Yes, thank you, sir.
The motion was by Mr. Freitas, the second was by Mr. Nava.
And the motion is to approve
Vote for Mr. Duncan.
Mr. Duncan
Write in.
and write in
Mr.
Mr. Porter.
Porter. Okay, got it.
Okay, and a yes would be to have it appear the way we just spoke it.
Yes.
That was a lot. And we're calling for the vote? Maybe. And the motion OAI 4 carries 7-0. Moving on, OAI 5, Mr. Khan.
Thank you, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer. This is a statutory requirement that the board present and adopt the actual dollar amounts of a bargained agreement. In this case, the agreement represents the terms that have been concurred with my vote district and the confidential group, of which there are 12 employees. Total annual cost about $72,500, give or take.
Thank you.
Second.
And, okay, any other questions from the board? Any questions from the audience? Call for the vote. OAI 5 passes 7-0. Moving on to OAI 6. Mr. McKilligan.
President McFarland, this is the actual item.
Second.
On the actual item,
Any board questions, concerns? Any comments from the audience? Call for the vote. OAI 6 passes 7-0. OAI 7, Mr. Khan.
Thank you, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer. This is again the statutory requirement for the agreed upon contract between LUSDA, the district's administrators and managers, and the board. There are 120.4 managers and administrators, total cost about $1 million. And I don't know who the .4 is. So.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Any comments from the board? Any comments from the audience?
move to approve.
Thank you, Joe. And thank you, Gary. With a motion and a second, call for the vote. Doesn't align, doesn't something else is fine, it's not that. It's there. Okay. How'd you guys do that? Motion carries. OAI 7 we're at, 6-1. OAI 8, Mr. McKilligan.
Madam President, this is the other actual item to approve the increase.
Thank you. Any comments from the board?
I move we approve.
Thank you, Joe. Any comments from the audience? Call for the vote. OAI 8 passes 6-1. Moving on, OAI 9. Dr. Washer.
Thank you, Ms. McFarland, members of the board. This is to amend the contract of our chief business officer to be in alignment with the other increases for other employee groups.
Thank you. Any comments from the board? Comments from the
Move we
audience?
approve.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Gary. I know, it's a lot down there. Call for the vote. OAI 9 passes 6-1. Moving on, OAI 10. Well, this is me. Wow. This is supposed to be me.
Mrs. Farland, it is you because it is my contract.
Oh, I didn't read it all the way through. Thank you.
Move to approve.
Move to approve? Any? Go ahead, Mr. Heatherly.
You'll see my vote, and I just want it made perfectly clear that it has nothing to do with Dr. Washer as a person or as a superintendent. It has everything to do with the pay structure, and that is my only concern. And Dr. Washer knows it by now because I've been doing it every year.
Thank you. Any other comments?
President McFarland,
Yes.
Once again, the longest tenured superintendent in San Joaquin County is also going to be the lowest paid. So given the choice of voting against this, which I believe is completely unfair that she not be recognized as the highest paid superintendent in San Joaquin County, I have the only other choice of approving this. And I am approving this begrudgingly because I do believe that she should be so recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Freitas. Any other comments from the board? I would just like to say thank you, Dr. Washer, for your navigation through COVID the last 2 years, and I appreciate what's coming next.
Pretty simple.
Very easy. Comments from the audience?
Thank you, President McFarland. As similar to the comments of Mr. Heberly, we are the outline of the 5% and where our superintendent is compared to where our new teachers are that are having a hard time struggling and having to work 2 jobs. It would really be helpful to have a living wage for our teaching professionals to only have to work 1 job. So that structure seems out of balance in our opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Last chance. Call for the vote. I'm sorry. Mr. Connexted motioned and you seconded. Mr. Neely seconded.
Thank you.
Sure. They're just really fast down there.
Yeah.
Late. Motion passes with 4 yeses, 1 no, and 1 abstain. 5. I can't count. I'm not okay. Okay, thank you. Moving on, personnel matters. Mr. McKilligan.
Madam President, personnel matters are presented for your consideration.
Thank you. Any
I move we approve personnel matter.
Come on up. Clearly they have no comments, but you have a chance.
I do. As you can see from the multiple pages on this personnel report, we are very concerned with the number of retirements and resignations, and as somebody spoke earlier to the teacher shortage, along with many of our employee groups, there is shortage to find the right professionals for the right job. And as we go forward, please be paying attention to the resignations. I hope that you are hearing, I am hearing from members that they are being surveyed on their way out, and I hope that you get that information that is being shared as to why some of the resignations are happening and why some of the retirements are happening earlier than what they could actually be in our district a little bit longer. So although COVID has its own ill effects on retirement, there are other things within Lodi Unified that we could, I think, do a better job at retaining our members in the profession. So I hope we consider that and we investigate the parts that we can going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I was looking down and I looked at things. Come on up. Can you state your name so that they can...
Good evening, board members and Dr. Washer. I'm Maria Alfici from Oakwood Elementary School, and thank you for sharing those pictures. That was wonderful. But I just wanted to bring it to your attention. I was sitting back there kind of doing research as I listened to everything going on. And indeed, when you're looking at this list of retirees and people who are leaving our district, I didn't know how and when to speak up because a raise is always a good thing. However, we're looking at 5.07 for everybody across the board, and then we're looking at the teachers. But when I was trying to just compare us to every other person in California, what I did was I pulled up the Social Security Administration. What people, okay, so this goes back to when we were on COVID. I had my mother-in-law living with me, and she got an increase in her pay, like because she's on Social Security, she's retired. And I'm like, you're automatically getting your pay, but we have to fight for a 3-year retro. Like, it was really confusing to me. And so I just don't know why we do this, I guess is what I'm bringing to your attention. Because right now, for 2022, the cost of living increase adjustment for the Social Security Administration is 5.9%. That's just a given. So looking at the way that we compare to the rest of California and the rest of the population, yeah, 5.07 looks nice, but why 5.07 when, I mean, it's an automatic Social Security increase cost of living adjustment 5.9, and yet we're always fighting for being competitive, and we're supposed to be the top of the line. We're California. People fight to live here, and so just when I'm comparing it to other salaries and looking at our people leaving, it just makes me wonder why. And I'm just going to leave you with that question. Thank you.
Thank you. I would, Leonard, can you maybe contact her after the fact and give her the reasons why? I mean, we don't make the 5.0%.
We can also address it at SBAC as well.
Thank you. Are you aware of SBAC meetings, and if you'd like to sit in on that?
I am aware of them. I sometimes, my calendar's full, so I lose track of dates, but if you don't mind contacting me, and I make the time when I need to be there.
Great.
22nd, but we'll send you an invite.
I was going to say, if you can leave your name and...
Excuse me, 23rd.
There you go.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We have a motion and a second. Can we call? Yes, we do, don't we? Yes. Just personnel matters. Correct? Okay. I got dueling sides here. Okay. Call for the vote. The personnel matters passes 7-0. Moving on to reports, Mr. Warren.
President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer, not Dr. Washer. So, currently the district has 9 vacant speech-language pathology openings, positions that are open, and a number of other unfilled special ed positions. We currently use outside agencies to provide mandated IEP services. Some of these agencies are willing to work with the district to release their employees from their contract at a financial cost. Most of these contracts have no competition clauses that are built into their contracts, but they're willing to negotiate or work with the district to release them in lieu of that. Staff recommends that the district work with these agencies willing to release employees. As an example, one agency will agree to this arrangement for $8,000 per employee. District staff will interview potential employees before making any payment to an agency. So staff has an interest in this practice of pursuing employees given the shortages, and I'm presenting this as a report item for board input.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Board, do we have any? Oh, we got lots of questions.
Ms. Ward, thank you for thinking outside the box on this. Those are the kinds of things that we need to have happen. I say that now, but there's more information that I'm going to need on this before I can support it. First of all, I'd like to see a comparison of what we pay versus what that private industry pays. I want to see what that is, and I find it interesting that they're willing to, I mean, I'm familiar with these no-compete clauses. I used to work for General Electric, and by God, we had them all over the place. And it's interesting that they're willing to buy out for only $8,000. And so I don't quite understand that, so I'd like an explanation of that, and we can do that part through email if you'd like, or whatever. The comparison, I'd like to see that well ahead before you ever bring this back, because I'm assuming this is just a report item, you're gonna bring it back as an action item later on, possibly. So I want to see everything that you've got on that. Also, why don't you look into their recruiting techniques too? See where they're going with that. How do they recruit these? Are they paying a bonus? You know, let's take a much, I need more information on this, I guess is what I'm saying. Like I say, I do congratulate you for looking at a way to try to solve this problem. Just bring us back some more stuff, okay?
Mr. Neely, I want to thank you for asking for that, but also, I don't like emails like that. I receive a lot of emails are emails. I like it verbally, to explain exactly what you're doing, and if we need another meeting to do that, that would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Noda. Any other questions?
Thanks for the presentation and so forth. It is obviously a need because we do have mandated numbers that we have to work with. Similar to what Mr. Nava said, I think that the information he's asking for is also what I'm curious about. And if I read that correctly, it said that they are willing to, excuse me, release one employee, and that we were interested in that employee also. So is this previous to some kind of interview and arrangement, or just kind of in general?
Well, I mean, that's why I'm bringing it, because we wouldn't pursue trying to get them released unless we had some type of blessing from the board saying, hey, this is a practice that we want to embark on. So, I mean, we would have to interview them and go through all the same process, but to release them legally. So for example, this particular agency, the no competition contract requires that they discontinue working for that company for a year before they would take a position, or they would be willing to allow us to buy out the contract. And I mean, what do I think? I think that their attitude's like, hey, if this person wants to leave, they're gonna leave. And whether they come with our district or another district, they're gonna leave. And so I think they see it as financially beneficial to get something for releasing them.
And I do like the idea that the individual would be one of our employees instead of a contract employee. I think that gives us a certain amount of stability, and I think it gives us a more quality product also, so that the SLPs are doing the things how we do it. And I think that's important. So let's say hypothetically we're interested and they're interested and the person is released. At what point then do we go through the personnel department and do all the background checks and all those things, criminal checks and all that? Is that before or after? How does that work?
I think what we would have to do, and I can defer to personnel to clarify this, but I think we would have to interview them. If it was someone we wanted, then we would have to get board approval to move forward with doing the additional, buying them out of their contract. So we would still have to follow the same process. Correct me if I'm wrong. That is.
I think what you're seeking here is the board interested in pursuing this process? What would happen is they could decide, if they had 3 people that are being contracted and they were interested in 2 of them, they could schedule an interview, hold the interviews like we always would, get all the way through the clearing process, and at that point he could approach the agency and say, we're interested in these 2. Can we invoke this clause and pay the $8,000 for each one of them and hire them?
And that's exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Which part goes in front of which
We
one?
do this first to make sure they're clear before they ask to release them.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Okay. No, go ahead.
I just have a couple questions because I read a lot of emails today and I'm going to go through them all. And I'm still kind of wrapping my hands around this. Are these individuals in person or are they doing it online?
I mean, we have contract people doing both. So we have contract providers that are in person, we have contract providers that are providing remote, and we've tried to create accommodations to make it as effective as possible with remote. We'll use SLPAs and other people so that we have a live person when they're doing remote, but it's a combination of both.
How many SLPs are remote?
Say that again?
How many SLPs are remote?
I don't have that number off the top of my head.
And do you work with one company or do you work with multiple?
We work with multiple companies.
And then you picked out this one company because they had a certain buyout or they had the best SLPs or they had the best
This particular one is because it was someone that the coordinator that's overseeing SLPs thought that they were doing a good job.
Now,
And I think there's a mutual interest.
I didn't have a bad habit of interrupting. Help me with why are they going to these companies and not coming to our school district?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Why are they, I'm sorry, let me pull this forward. Mr. Warren, by the way, I really appreciate you bringing this forward. And again, thinking out of the box, but why are they going to these companies instead of coming to our school district?
I don't know. I don't know why.
Have you done a survey to check with them, like what gravitated them towards that company? Are we not recruiting well? Are we not looking outside the box where we have pretty cheap housing in this area versus the Bay Area, things like that? I know that Elk Grove goes over the Bay Area and one of their selling points is, hey, we got affordable housing compared to the Bay Area. Are we doing things like that?
I don't know. I don't know specifically I mean, we go to the universities, we do a number of different things to try to recruit, just as we do with other teachers, psychologists, and other groups.
I was just curious why they would choose the company versus not coming with us.
I don't know. I mean, I could say like the ones that are doing a remote, it may be that they don't live locally and they're able to work in that way. Again,
How many students does each SLP have on their caseload?
I'm sorry, what?
I got to. How many students, on average, does each SLP handle caseload?
It varies. I mean, right now, the most recent the district-wide average was 54 point something to 1.
I'm kind of following along with Mr. Neely and Mr. Everly and Mr. Nava. I'm going to need a little more information, and I want to reread some of the information I got from the SLPs before I can render a positive decision on your proposal. That's just my feeling. I like how you came with something out of the box. That's important to me, and I know that you're thinking, trying to find ways to attract SLPs, but I need, for myself, to make sure that our people that we have here are being valued, and the people we bring in are valued as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Porter.
Mr. Clark, do we have any SLPs in the audience that would like to speak on this?
Yes, once we get our questions. There's quite a few. And they'll have their chance to have a comment. Mr. Warren, I have a couple of questions. First off, thank you for thinking outside the box. I appreciate this. I think my first question would be that you give the example of $8,000 per employee. I have a list of questions. That seems fair. I would like to know if that's negotiable. The question that we're down 9 SLPs, correct? Is that what your number comes up with?
That's what was shared with me.
That's what you're sharing. What are our surrounding districts? How many are they down? Are they in the range of us? Is this a systemic problem, or is there something else we could do?
I know that all of our surrounding districts are short. I don't know how they compare with our district.
Okay.
I don't have that information.
That would be a question I would want to have, because if we're down 9 and everybody else is down 1, let's look inward. I do like this outside the box. I like the idea of it. At the end of the day, we want to serve our students. And so if this is the best way to serve our students, then I can get behind it, but I would want to know that we have done everything locally to support our SLPs, and that we're putting a human with our students. And so if everybody's in the same predicament that we're in, then what are we gonna do to stand out? Because if everybody's gunning for the same, 40 or 60 graduates, what are we doing that's outside the box or a little more, not glamorous isn't really the right word, but we have a lot to offer at Lodi Unified. And I think we need to figure out how we can be the most effective in the San Joaquin Valley. And so I think we have a pretty great district. I think we do a lot of things right. Maybe we need to do a couple more things right in this arena. Dr. Warsha, you look like you had something. I'm sorry.
Wait till you're done.
Okay, I'm done. I think, again, we need a little more information, but I understand if we have to go out and hunt and contract to do this, but I want to know that we've at least negotiated it and we've kind of, gone after everything that we could go after and we've taken a good hard look at ourselves. And that we've maybe sought a little information from our SLPs, because I think they're probably going to be one of our greatest resources about what we're doing or we're not doing. Because they did come to us and they are employed by us. So what are we doing great and what do we need to work on? Because I think asking them will give us our roadmap of where we need to go. Dr. Washer.
Thank you, Mrs. Farley, members of the board. I just want to clarify that this is a way to increase our staffing of SLPs that we employ. That this is a way to attain more staff of our own rather than contracting. We've heard from the board, we've also heard from employees that contracting isn't perhaps the ideal situation, and why couldn't we get more employees? This is a way to get more employees. They would be our SLPs, not a contracted service. So I just want to make sure that's clear that that's what this is. It's a tool to help get more SLPs as our employees. The other thing is that this is an example. That doesn't mean that every agency would be $8,000. Some may be more, some may be less. And I am, hearing that you need more information and that they're concerned. So when we're finished with the conversation with this piece, it would be helpful to know if you prefer that we wait until we bring you more information and you discuss it again rather than moving forward. We don't want to pursue employees or potential employees if this isn't something that you're interested in. So we'll need that direction at the end of your conversation.
Mr. Connector.
Yeah, this is essentially a fact-finding, I guess, information gathering situation. So a couple things that, first of all, I like the site, well, I guess in baseball it'd be a sign-up fee, but the buyout, I think is probably, a good idea if nothing else works. But I would also like to, if we take that step and we do something like that, I'd like to have some kind of guarantees that person will in fact stay for 1, 2, 3, 25 years. Whatever, I don't want to spend money and then they last 6 months and bail out. So that's something that you put in your notes. So yeah, that's kind of one of the big things for me. And I think I kind of favor in person as opposed to remote. So that would kind of put me towards the let's do it box.
Thank you, Mr. Connection. Any other questions? I would like to say that we do understand, I think all the board members understand that while this format worked because we were down, and so I think in order to move forward, we want to make sure that we have all the information in front of us before we just go. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, and I would just add, we're talking specifically about speech language pathologists, but we do contract with other providers that we are short. And when you contract with someone, you're able to, at least to some degree, ascertain the quality of that employee. So there might be other groups like psychologists or nurses or other people where we're short, struggling to fill certain positions that, so I know that we're specifically talking about speech language pathologists, but again, if this is a practice that the board is like, hey, when we're in dire straits trying to get people and we're, have these long-term contracts that are perpetual or, for positions that are not being filled, if this is a practice that the board would approve moving forward in trying to end these situations. And again, it doesn't always work out. There are people we contract with we would never want to hire.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. I do see this as a stopgap measure until we can get the 9 employees, and maybe this gives us another avenue. So I appreciate it. I'm assuming that the board would like more information coming back to us. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I was just making sure that we were. Man, tough crowd. That's why I need that. Public comment. There you go. Come on out. You're going to make the board happy. Real quickly, can you state your name so that they have a copy of it?
Yes, sorry. Hi, President McFarland, Dr. Washer, and the board. My name is Michelle Ono, and I am the speech language pathologist at Larson, and I'm here on behalf of, this is just a small group of us, but of the speech language pathology group as a whole. We come before you tonight to share our thoughts and concerns on Mr. Warren's proposal to use district funds in order to buy out the contracts and hire from our...
It's all the way up.
Sorry, I'm never quiet. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's not your fault, I can't hear.
I'll try and speak up. So we come before you to discuss our thoughts and concerns about Mr. Warren's proposal to buy out certain contracted employees' contracts in order to hire them on as district speech language pathologists. We would like to say that we really do appreciate that you guys are recognizing the urgent need to hire more speech language pathologists, and we do appreciate that you guys are willing to spend money to attract and retain speech language pathologists. We currently have 10.7. We pulled the most recent SACE numbers and based on the caseloads, and it comes out to 10.7 vacant FTEs. So in my 4 years with the district, I have seen several qualified and amazing speech language pathologists resign from Lodi Unified to work in districts in the surrounding area. These SLPs loved working with our incredible students and Lodi families and staff members, but they had to make the best financial choice for their family, and that meant moving to a district willing to pay them a competitive salary. From my time in the district, I believe there are 2 main obstacles that are leaving our speech pathology program, our group, understaffed. Number 1 is our inability to attract a quality pool of candidates, and number 2 would be the inability to retain our qualified SLPs that already work for the district. In recent years, the district has not been able to fully staff the speech language pathology department, and we have lost an additional 6 qualified and experienced SLPs to higher paying districts within a 30-mile radius. In the last 10 years, the district has had an attrition rate of 35% in the speech department. We currently have 14 contracted SLPs, 4 in-person contractors, and 10 teletherapists working remotely from across the country. 3 of those 4 in-person contractors have shared that they would not take the pay cut to come work for the district. This means that spending $8,000 will only allow the district to recruit and hire just 1 SLP. While the proposed buyout is a creative solution to the district's primary problem, we don't believe it's sustainable. Once an SLP is hired, we want to know what will the district do to ensure that they remain working in the district in the future, what is holding the new hire back from resigning and moving to an even higher paying district within the area. We believe that spending money to create a more competitive and appealing salary schedule solves both of our main problems when it comes to attracting qualified candidates and retaining our wonderful district SLPs. I really appreciate the response that we got back from Mr. Porter, and I can hear that you guys have really taken our concerns into account when going into this, so we really appreciate that, and we look forward to working with the district in the future to come up with a solution to attract and retain speech language pathologists. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Hello, I am Ashley Herzik. I'm a speech and language pathologist at Beckman. I was hired by San Ramon Unified 11 years ago, and I left immediately after about 6 months because of the pay. I didn't realize there was such a huge discrepancy between a school district and a contract company. I worked with a speech therapist owned company for 6 years before coming to Lodi. And I settled down here. I wanted to work for local. I wanted to stay local. I did take a pay cut when I left my contract company. But I'm still hanging on here. I'm hoping that things can change. It's not just about getting new SLPs, it's about retaining the ones we do have. Because I know just a lot of us, our morale is low, I think mine is. And I just, especially with all the referrals after COVID, we have higher caseloads than what's depicted on that 54 caseload. So when we have a referral for a student, I just want to educate what's going on. When we have a referral for a student, it's put into going to be assessed pending, and those are not counted towards our caseload. So right now, because of COVID, everything's up. All the phonological processes are up. It's language delays. You know, there's so much going on with these kids, and I have 11 pending. So that's not counted in. I'm at 66. State, we're supposed to be at 55. So the numbers don't tell everything. But I do appreciate the thought going into this. I know that with the contract companies, they're across the whole United States. So there's hundreds, and they are just grabbing up any SLP they can get. So the quality isn't always the best. They could be brand new. They could have been fired from another district. We don't know. And I know that a lot of therapy companies will, like the reputable, the good ones, the local ones, the ones that are therapist owned that really want to give good quality, will not do this type of clause because I believe that it's kind of disrespectful in a way to barter with SLPs. I think it is systemic. I think the pay needs to go up, and I think we're worth it. You know, we work hard, we love our jobs, and that's why we're still sticking here in Lodi. I don't want to leave Lodi Unified. But we have lost a lot of great therapists in the last couple of years. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I do want to get the data on the number of SLPs other districts are down. So I'm going to work on that and I'll email it.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Mr. Neely has a question. Lisa, go ahead and come up, and Mr.
Yeah,
Neely's going to
just a
ask.
second, Mr. Khan, I'd like to also see, I have a hard time understanding how we can pay a contractor and and they provide an SLP, they're making a profit, so I'd like to see where the money plays in on this too. What are our contract costs? What are we paying for that? And what are we getting for it? And how does that compare to what we're paying our own internal employees? Let's do a complete evaluation of this and then bring it back. And the other question is, didn't we work with LPPA on the SLP contract here just a few years ago? I thought we
did.
we fixed a lot of things on it.
Yes.
We didn't?
Can I add to that?
No, if you want to come back up, you can come back to the podium.
Can I do that?
I just want to let you know, Mrs. Farland, that would be a different topic than
Yes.
this.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can get that information.
Okay, go on.
So, Mr. Neely, I was actually going to bring up the same sort of things, like we have to have these SLPs because we have to comply with servicing these students through the state. So what are we paying these contractors? Why are we going to give a contractor $8,000? Why don't we give that directly to the SLP we want to hire so that we can hire them? I mean, to me, it just seems like we're treating these SLPs like cattle, where we're going to pay whoever has them employed the $8,000 instead of paying that person. That's just my opinion, but yeah. So I think we need to look at what we're paying these companies and why aren't we using
We're
that
off
money?
target a little bit. Lisa, I appreciate your concerns. Any other questions for Mr. Warren? Oh, yes, if you want to.
comment. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead and come back up.
I know I'm annoying. Okay. So in addition, I just wanted to note that the teletherapists, I think this should be added into the total cost. The teletherapists typically have someone who has to, a paraeducator, a SLPA, who has to go pull the kids from class. So they are paid to be on campus pulling the kids from class, so I think that needs to be added in as well. So, you know, it's 2 people for one
Yeah.
job.
Thank you.
Thank you, I just wanted to note that.
Thank you so much. We need to stick to Mr. Warren's report. I appreciate everyone's passion and their concerns, but this was not a report item about what we're paying SLPs, even though it does matter to us, and I appreciate your concerns. Thank you very much. Do you
What
have
I'm
your
hearing
direction?
is that, Mrs. McFarland, what I'm hearing is that you need more information before we are to move forward.
Excellent. Yes, much more. Thank you. Any other, we're it? Moving on.
Thank you, Ms. Warren.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warren. Thank you to SLPs for coming and giving up your evening. We do appreciate it. Mr. Khan.
Thank you, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer. Before the board is a first reading of the new, or the proposed SAM policy. SAM is really not a bad acronym, but it's identifies sexual abuse and molestation. Currently, the board does not have a policy. I would like to thank those involved in the work on drafting this policy. That would be Adriana Lomelli, who was in risk management for a period of time and then I believe accepted a job at Lodi High School. Also Lana Villarga, and this gentleman to my left, Mr. Stephen Williams. We vetted the presentation today. It was an arduous process and Stephen drew the short straw, I'm afraid. So, I'll let Stephen take it from here.
This board policy is to define a clear line between professional, or a clear line of, let me just change, sorry. This policy is to provide all staff, students, volunteers, and community members with information to increase their awareness of their role in protecting children from inappropriate conduct and failure to maintain appropriate boundaries by adults. It's highly recommended by our property and casualty insurer. It's similar to the Redlands USD SAM policy that they adopted. It was brought to the safety committee on January 27th for comments, and the proposed new board policy will be back on February 22nd for board consideration.
And again, I'll thank Stefan, Lana, and Adriana for their work on this. Be happy to answer any questions as the board might have.
Mr. Neely.
Real quick, did you use Gamut from CSBA as you were crafting this? They have sample policies on there. I don't know if they have this one, but that's something we pay for, so.
We did look at any Gamut product available, but we leaned heavily on the Redlands Unified policy. It's kind of the gold standard.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Heatherly.
Thank you, and I do just have one question. It says, I guess it's referring to adult contact. Does it also, I guess, refer to student-to-student contact?
This is the adult portion, but there are student-to-student policies and handbooks and that.
Very good, thank you.
Mr. Freitas.
President McFarland, sexual abuse and molestation, unfortunately, is is a fact in our communities, and very often it does go without intervention, and because of problems that we have. Bringing this to the forefront and putting this policy is something that I'm very glad to see the district is doing, and something that I will support wholly. I'd like to thank Mr. Khan and the entire committee for the work on this, and I look forward to supporting this as an action item as soon as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Freitas. Mr. Nava.
Mr. Khan, you said this was an adult, and what about the student? They're involved in this also?
Well, it's more, I'm sorry, I don't have a better term for this, more as a victim in this particular policy.
Okay.
But this is a guide for staff and a guide for how to behave when around students.
I really agree with Mr. Freitas. I think this policy is well written. I went straight through it and I mean, just did all the things that happened, we're liable for in the school system. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nava.
President McFarland, I'm sorry, I left out Director, or Senior Director and Controller April Warris, who also spent a lot of time working with the team.
Thank you for acknowledging her. Any other board comments? Michelle, are you coming up?
Thank you, President McFarland, members of the board. I have to agree with the thoroughness of this board policy, and it was brought to the safety committee and shared out. There were some questions that came up about policies also with students. So next steps, students who are acting inappropriately towards staff. They'd like to see that language beefed up in our other policy, as they thought this was very thorough in delineating. The other piece to this is, I hope that the communication and the way this is rolled out and presented, that it goes to all members, and it isn't just, we've adopted this policy and it's on the shelf. We really need to make sure that it's explained thoroughly to staff. I would say starting with their becoming an employee from now on that onboarding process. So we found very detailed and good things in this policy, and like that aspect of it. So thank you.
Thank you, Michelle, and I agree with you. Any other comments or concerns? Thank you. Wonderful report. Much needed. We are now at communications, employee groups. Lisa, come on back. Or no, it's Michelle.
We'll let Dean do the sweep tonight. So, good evening, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer, those of you community members and fellow employees. Thanks for sticking it out this late. There are a lot of energy from the very first presentation tonight, and your comments on kindness and doing things for our community were key, and great takeaways, and a great spotlight tonight to showcase our students and our community collaborating. And on that note, I hope that going forward we can communicate and collaborate better with things that are being rolled out in the district. We have recently had a meeting regarding LCAP and the extra dollars that have been added to LCAP. We spoke to the director, and due to illness, was not able to get everybody's comments into the platform. And in talking to the director doing it, asked for more responsive, opening that up, giving more members an opportunity to give input, and really do appreciate that collaborativeness and that working together, because in this COVID world that has become our everyday reality, there are so many more things added to everyone's plate, yours included. Every teacher, every custodian, our speech and language pathologists. I mean, everything is intensified with what they have to do, and more being added. So we appreciate that extension. We also appreciate the communication with Mr. Khan this week on the ordering. I'm sure you have received many emails from my members in frustration over being denied. Mr. Nava's putting out there, $200 to spend on things that teachers need to spend on their classrooms. Well, bumps in the road, hiccups, it hasn't gone well, and people were denied being able to order things that they found appropriate. Policies and procedures changed, but somehow that communication is not getting down to the person who is having to put in that extra work for something more additional on their plate in order to get the great handout, if you will, to help their classroom. And so communication is key, and I hope that we really try at that messaging going out wider and broader, because with new people coming on, and I say new for lack of a better term, some of your teachers have been in this district for close to 30 years, and you have a brand new principal who has never worked in Lodi Unified and doesn't understand the way things process and happen. And so when they explain it, I mean, the transfer process is a great example. Telling a, probationary teacher, you can take that backfill. No, you can't. So that communication part, we really need to see more open dialogue, a way to not be as divisive and adversarial, but bringing that message in to everyone so it's shared across the state. Really appreciate how things and the law rolls out. And so if we're all kept in the loop, we can answer questions. But when it comes to, you have 2 days to spend this money, and they're tutoring after school, and they have their own kids, and oh my, now their son or daughter is on quarantine. We need to have a longer plan in some of these things that are rolled out to teachers. To call a meeting on a Friday afternoon in a bulletin that you're going to have to meet after school on a Monday is unacceptable. The long-term planning has to be there for teachers. It needs to be there for teachers because they also have families and appointments and lives. So we hope that in this next month, and as we head towards spring break with all of these things that are coming up, testing and everything, that there is more open dialogue about what needs to be done, and a forum in which teachers do not feel that they are threatened or belittled when they are asking those questions. And that is what I'm hearing happening. To be told that I have to appear in a small classroom with 40 individuals in it, with one little air filter going and an archaic HVAC system on top, and I ask, why can't we Zoom on this meeting? And the administrator says, well, you don't turn on your screen, I can't see you. Well, we all know internet connectivity. If I'm there and you want me to speak, ask me to speak. Ask me to turn on my camera. Treat me like a professional, but treat me with respect along the way. And this is what that communication is not happening. There's a disconnect. And there is a lot that I think we can work towards at improving and embracing that collaboration as we move forward. We've heard a lot about SEL, and I have teachers saying that is still sitting on the shelf and we're not trained. Your teachers need some SEL, your students need that SEL. We need to put that to work and get that out there so they have the resources. Let's get it started. We hope that as a board you look at bridging the big gap of COVID leave. We are hopefully, and fingers crossed, the governor signs the legislation for COVID leave from December to now, giving members that have to quarantine or isolate that time. But in our district, we have that clause, a break in service, and they lose their early health benefits. I have members that have possibly lost that due to having to quarantine and isolate from October to December. And if they go longer than the COVID leave days going forward, they would have a break in service. So we hope that you can find a way to bridge that gap so that is not lost, that you show that you really do value those teachers that have been with you for 10 years or longer in order to get early health benefits, and don't lose them. We also hope that you really evaluate the Keenan videos and time that is spent on them. My teachers were reporting the little thing says 4 minutes. It's not 4 minutes. It's a half hour to 30 minutes and then taking the quiz. And I think all of you have done it and know that is inaccurate. So we've gone from 30 minutes several years ago to some teachers having to do over 10 hours of Keenan videos. And we hope that in going forward with negotiations, that you look at these things with open eyes as a way to show respect to your teachers. And, you know, I'll just say that I'm sure my colleague coming up will talk about the speech and language pathologist, but my teachers have commented that it is shameful that we have moved from distant learning to in-person learning, and yet you have, they quoted the numbers of how many, and they see their little kids doing speech language services still on the video screen. So we hope that we can find a way to retain our speech and language colleagues along with our teachers in this district with things going forward, starting with communication and collaborating together. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Dean. Come on up.
Thank you, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer. I'd like to start off with some accomplishments. National School Counselor Week is amongst us, and I want to thank you again for the recognition of our school counselors. Along those lines, the social emotional learning has been a key interest of the board. And I know recently we had some additional monies that were put in through LCAP, and we've had the opportunity to talk about where we think that money should go and what we think the district should do with that money. And I know that it's in the conversation to increase our counseling staff. So I think those are all fantastic things that we're accomplishing there. We also have some additional school psychologist positions. And I know I've talked to the board a number of times about the need for additional services, and it's wonderful to see that we're growing there and expanding what we can do and how well we can do it. Our work's not done. We still are short speech and language pathologists, and it was encouraging to hear your comments today, taking that as a good sign that it's something that we're working on together to provide the appropriate services for all of our students. We still have other groups that are also understaffed. They may not have the FTE absences or vacancies, but our school nurses are stretched thin. Our program specialists are working double time to get the job done. As we go into negotiations, those are things that we're going to be, I know we can't negotiate FTE, but I know that we want to talk about how to approach, how to recruit and retain. The hardest negotiations are when you don't have money and when you do, because when you have money, everybody wants to spend it one way or another. We understand that. But we do look forward to coming together with you to help solve our mutual problems and to be able to serve our community and get you guys home before 10 o'clock tonight. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other employee groups in the audience? Okay, moving on, board comments.
President McFarland.
Mr. Freitas.
Thoughts and prayers are with the family of Captain Max Fortuna and the Stockton Fire Department and all the cities of Stockton for Max giving his life in the line of duty.
Thank you. Any other? Oh, we're going down the line. Okay, Mr. Heatherly.
As we've been talking about the SLPs, it's my personal opinion that I'm actually really sick and tired of these ridiculous masks. However, we are where we are, and when we're talking about SLPs, I'm thinking, how in the world are these children's supposed to acquire language when they cannot see a face. Okay? It has so many downsides to it, it is far worse than the problem. Same thing goes with counselors. We all know that our children are suffering big time. Both my daughters are in the medical industry, and they're seeing patients that shouldn't be there because of the stress on the families, and the children a lot of times are paying the price for it. So I'm hoping that we can get rid of these mandates and move forward and seriously get in touch with our kids and help them with what they need to do to not only academically grow, but to just plain grow and be kids. So I think that the conversation that we're having about counseling and SLPs is well worth the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heberly. Mr. Porter?
Yes, two things. I've been getting emails and phone calls, some even on my private line, which is amazing. One from Mr. Kahn. Is it true that no pools are open right now in Lodi Unified School District?
Middle schools are open right now in Lodi.
Pools?
Oh, pools.
Yeah, I hope I hate to wake you up over there, but
Yeah.
I am the guy they call when they have aquatics problem. And Tokay and Lodi are working out at Tokay High School, right? And
So Bear Creek is open, McNair is open, but.
Bear Creek is open, is that correct?
Yeah, Tokay's boilers broke this week.
Okay, they had 2 months to work on those things. Why didn't they get, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but the pool was down for 2 months. So they just decided now to ginny it up and then the thing didn't work?
That's correct.
Okay, that's, because then they call me. All right. So we got that taken care of. You can get the pools going?
We'll do
We're
our
talking about
best.
200 people here that are going to be affected.
I understand.
Students, okay, so we can get that going. The other one is PE. That's for Mr. Saldi, I think, or Dr. Saldi, I apologize. I understand that PE now is required in 10th grade, is that correct? Now, can you explain to me why it's required, or is it because of the health portion that has to be taught that is required by the
I'm sorry, point of order. These are unagendized.
These are comments.
You can make comments, Mr. Solly cannot answer.
First of all, Mr. Farland is the president.
Well, that's why I'm raising a point of order.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Freitas. While I do,
Okay, then I'm going to talk about the fact that why are we requiring PE for 10th graders? I think it's something we need to look at and maybe have a semester of health. Thank you, Mr. Freitas, for cutting me off again, even when you're president. That seems to be one of your things.
Okay, we're going to keep it civil, guys. Moving on, Mr. Nava, anything? Mr.
Yeah,
Freitas?
let's cheer this place up, okay?
Should we sing happy birthday to somebody?
So yeah, Mr. Knacksack, last month, had a birthday.
Before we do that, I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight. I appreciate the SLPs. I appreciate all the reports. I think the smile and pay it forward and do a kind gesture. I think if we did that a little bit more in our life, we probably could get through the day a little better. I agree with Mr. Headley. I'm done with the masks, but they are still here for a little while longer.
I do too, I agree with him, Joe. Get rid of the mask.
I agree, but we are under
I know.
order. I know. So good luck with keeping the mask. We appreciate you coming. Mr. Neely, go ahead.
Before the birthday song?
Before the birthday song.
I'll try to be quick about this. I want to report on graduations. I'd also like to see our website updated. We're still showing graduation dates in 21. We need to go ahead and update all that so people can start their planning on it. I want an agenda item put on for board discussion next meeting for a community assistance program. Something I've been working on for some time, I've heard about. I want us to actually get together and talk about it. A place where families can go where essentially they can get help with food stamps, housing, medical, domestic violence issues, employment assistance, adult education, daycare, and support groups. I want to be able to talk about those items. teacher shortage. Teacher shortage is everywhere. CNN's got tons of stories on it. It's not because of any central thing here in Lodi Unified. Teacher shortages are everywhere right now, and we need to see what we can do to address those. You got that picture that I had? Put that up, please. Quick. No, that's not it. There it is right there. I got this off the internet, and this is about Black History Month. I am a strong supporter of Black History Month. It says, dear students, they didn't steal slaves. They stole scientists, doctors, architects, teachers, entrepreneurs. What else is that saying?
Fathers,
Right behind me. Fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, etc., and made them slaves. I grew up and went to school here in Lodi. I didn't know anything about Black history. I didn't know anything about interacting with African Americans. I was sent to Vietnam, sent out to the field in a small group of 30, where at least half were African Americans that had been drafted. And I got a crash course in what the Army at that time called race relations. And thank God there was a young man there, his name was JJ. He was he carried a grenade launcher for us. He was from New York. And one time we came in, he set me down, because let me tell you what, there was race problems all over in 1972. It was everywhere. And he set me down and explained a few things to me about what life was like growing up black. Talked to me about the ghettos and things like that, and I understood a lot. And it absolutely changed me. We need to make sure that we talk about it. And I want to see what our district is doing about that, and I'd like to hear about that at our next board meeting as well. What have we done about Black History Month? Black History Month is important. Latino History Month is important. Native American history is important. We need to understand the problems, the issues, and the history of our people. All of our people. When I first taught at Lakewood, I was a long-term sub. I just got my credential and they hired me as a long-term sub there. January, Martin Luther King's birthday, I gave an assignment to write a report on Martin Luther King. Parent came in and just got all over me. I don't take that too well, so we had some conversations, and her husband came in. He and I got, but the thing was, that they said, well, you know, I was saying, well, we got, you know, African American, Black History Month coming up. Well, why don't we have a white American history? That's all I teach all year long. So let's, I want to hear what Lodi Unified is doing about that. And that's all I've got. Thank you very much.
Can I get a point of clarification? You have quite a few things that you would like her to report, Dr.
Yes.
Washer to report on next month. Maybe can we have you meet with Dr. Washer and
Yes, Dr. Washer and I are
and
gonna
streamline it and
Yeah.
figure out what and how we want to
This
move
is what
forward.
happens when you get board comments at 10:10 or 9:50 at night. I haven't got time to go over all the things that I've got, so I'm gonna put it on the agenda and I'll have time.
All right.
I'll do that.
Okay, sounds good to me. Comments from Dr. Washer. Would you like to wrap it up?
Unfortunately,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a couple of
Okay.
things.
Hold back this way.
Bear Creek Pool is not open by the way. It is drained. So, we have bigger problems than that. So let's see what we can do to get those involved, access to the kids. And Dr. Washer, you know what? I'll play. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Mr. Freitas.
If he goes twice, I'm going to go twice. I also like to recognize the firefighters of Stockton Firefighters Local Union 456 who buried one of their brothers today.
Thank you, Mr. Freitas. Anybody else? Okay, can we let Dr. Washer go now?
thank you, Ms. McFarland. I'm sorry, but board, we do need to go back into closed session very fast.
Yes.
I apologize.
Very quickly. Any other?
I'm not going.
advisory committee reports. No advisory, with no advisory committee reports, we're going to adjourn
Happy
at,
birthday, let's
oh,
go.
let me adjourn and now let's say.
Ready?
Ms. McFarland, just happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear. Happy birthday to you.
Mrs. McFarland, we're just adjourning to closed session, we're not adjourning the meeting. We're just adjourning to closed session, we're not adjourning the meeting.
And I have a question.
Question
number one. Sure.
Yeah.
Quick and dirty explanation.